All right. Well, the Wilditarian tenets are eating to your genetic blueprint and your current state of health based on the four disruptors that I have identified as protein malabsorption, fat malabsorption, sulfur malabsorption, and oxalate malabsorption. And in particular, protein malabsorption has become a really big deal in that we know that our food supply is creating in the tissues of animals, in particular chicken and beef, chicken being the most studied, these indigestible proteins by the name of amyloids. And these amyloids are actually multiple fold problem makers. One, because they can't break down, and we need our protein to break down into amino acids so we can make tendons and hormones and glucose and all sorts of things. And then we have the aspect of these amyloids actually reactivating pathogenic loads. So we know that amyloids will build biofilm. Biofilm protects pathogens, and they become a feeder system for autoimmunity. And that's truly one of the tenets of the Wilditarian diet. So protein malabsorption, if you're not eating wild, and I'm saying especially in this pandemic, because now there's some clinical literature that shows that the CV, however you get it, however you're exposed, can actually build amyloid plaque. So we don't want to continue fueling it. And I say not wild is non-negotiable. You have to be wild right now. You have to consume those lower amyloid meats and fish. Fish don't contain amyloids, but lower meats and poultry, because otherwise you're creating a feeder system for something that's already endemic. The second thing is fat. So why is fat such a big deal? Well, we're told to eat keto, we're told to eat paleo. Well, buyer beware, because fat is also the stress hormone of epinephrine and cortisol. And if we're pushing it, especially in this environment, especially if we have genes of the MTHFR C677T polymorphism, which is how we recycle hormones, how we make bile salts, how we build neurotransmitters. If you're eating a heavy keto diet, you could actually be backing up your liver. You could be backing up your lymphatic system. You could be backing up your gut. You could be breaking through the intestinal barrier. So fat malabsorption, when there is stress and or genetic tendencies, and both, then we have to be mindful of fat. And keto could be, we say, be kicking your butt. And then we have the sulfur piece, and sulfur relates to how we make neurohormones, how we build the mucin layer in our gut, how we manage our cognitive function, how we manage our neurotransmitters. It has so many valuable functions. However, the glyphosate, which is roundly sprayed on our crops, it is the active ingredient in Roundup, has inhibited the body's ability to convert sulfur to sulfate. Sulfate is what we need. We're getting stuck in a sulfur spinning wheel. And this is from the genius work of Dr. Stephanie Seneff out of MIT, who's proven it over and over again. When that happens, sulfur can leak your gut, can give you support arthritis, can support ulcerative colitis, can support the making of crystals with oxalates, which I'll talk about in a minute. But it can be linked to heart disease. It is just head to toe problematic. And so eating those healthy sulfur-rich foods like kale, as I call killer kale, or broccoli or cabbage or cauliflower, in an environment where sulfur is a problem, can be a problem for you. I'm one of those. I have sulfur impairment. When I was eating high sulfur foods, I was really feeling arthritic. I could barely walk. Now I don't eat sulfur foods. I dance with them, but they're not my favorite foods because my gut is healed and sealed. And the last piece of it is oxalates. And why are oxalates what are oxalates, first of all? And why are oxalates such a problem? Well, oxalates are a protective coating that live on plants, and they are found in blueberries and in almonds and in black beans and in many nuts and in spinach and beets. And beets are really good for nitric oxide, but they're also high in oxalate. And oxalates, again, due to the Roundup in large part, and if we have certain oxalate metabolism impairment genes, these oxalates can become oxalate crystals that can attach to your arteries. Oxalate crystals are known to create stones, kidney stones, gallstones, but also thyroid nodules, neuromas, lipomas. There are so many omas that the oxalates can create. And it has been linked to disrupting dopamine metabolism because oxalate is tied to building mold, which builds candida, which feeds the strep, which then can cause all sorts of autoimmune psychiatric disorders. PANDAS has been tied, PANDAS, which is pediatric autoimmune psychiatric disorder, has been tied to impaired oxalate metabolism. Why? Because these oxalates are feeding fungal and pathogenic loads of strep and candida. So eating healthy foods, depending on what your genetic blueprint is, what your current state of health is, and what the environment is really kicking our butts. And I will say there are many green powders out in the marketplace, one in particular who's become very popular that is full of sulfur, oxalates, and even mycotoxins. Mushrooms are considered mycotoxins or fungal organisms. When we have a high fungal environment and we have an oxalate metabolism impairment, that's a problem. That's a problem. So people come to us, they're barely walking, their stomach is a mess, they're bloated, they're depressed. Some of them have become anxious, some of them are manic. And it could be because they're eating healthy foods that are literally having such, it's like a ninja to your DNA in the very worst ways. And so we really want to share with your audience, know your genes, know your tendencies, understand what your body is doing, and apply that methodology appropriately so you can live a vibrant life. Even in an environment where things are seeming to be backwards and upside down, we can still be very vibrant.